Hiya, how you doing? I've written an article recently, and if you're like me and you're a bit sort of like ambivalent as to whether these new sort of information communication technology skills and these multimedia skills and these new ways of communicating and reaching out to people that you've acquired during lockdown are because of the COVID secure organizational guidance or in spite of the COVID secure organizational guidance, well then, this article will be for you. It focuses on the COVID secure guidance that's been provided as part of the Coronavirus Act. And it asks questions. It asks questions in respect to the extent to which these COVID secure guidance sufficiently focuses on issues in terms of organisational politics. Moreover, it raises issues in terms of the need to consider the possibilities of gender responsive budgeting in relation to organisational decision making. And it looks more closely at what can be seen as being disparities in terms of technological access that have quite possibly meant that many of the advances that ethnic minorities, or women, for example, or disability groups, for example, have made in terms of being present within organisations have actually almost been retracted as lockdown has, in many respects, and the guidances that have facilitated lockdown in terms of limiting the access to spaces within organisations, in many respects, can be said to have possibly undermined many of the advances that have been achieved in terms of minority ethnics gaining access to organisational spaces, being present during meetings, being there in person to advance their cause. Disability groups, for example, or enabling the breaking through of the glass ceiling in terms of gender segregation at work, much of which has been achieved through the presence, the physical, material presence of minority groups in these organisational spaces, in these decision-making situations. So my paper looks at to what extent have the COVID secure guidance almost undermined a lot of those achievements. And moreover, to what extent have, despite the gender blind bases quite often of this organisational guidance, to what extent have new skills by necessity been developed and cultivated as we found ourselves out of our offices, multitasking in new spaces gained in our homes, in those spaces that have good Wi-Fi, or those spaces that enable us to actually be able to remotely work. Should we cultivate these new skills? Should we realize that we have these new information communication technology skills? And should we see them as having come about in spite of or because of the COVID secure guidance that has meant for many of us that our offices and spaces gained within organisations have been hopefully temporarily inaccessible. Okay, so enjoy my paper. Okay? Oh, by the way, it's Pam. Thank you very much for listening.